Right. Well, hello everybody.
Good
This is
evening.
Chandler and Nathan,
That's right.
otherwise known as Nathan and Chandler.
Is this
Sometimes
episode 5?
I believe so. Title: Work in Progress. So
Worth the
insert
price.
title
Wow.
card here. All
All
right.
right. So today's topic is going to be kind of shooting from the hip.
It's a broad topic.
Yeah, we're just going to be talking American directors, ones we love, ones we need to catch up more on,
Yeah.
ones we think are important to the canon.
Yeah. So maybe we'll find some directors you haven't heard of or interested in seeing more of, and we'll go
Right.
from there. Yeah.
And we'd love any comments about your favorite American directors.
Please.
Okay. Without further ado, we'll get started how we always do. What have you been watching recently?
So I recently completed the Mission Impossible series, just in time for the Final Reckoning. And previously to that, I watched Dead Reckoning Part 1.
So it's a
Notice,
part 2.
yes, but they changed the name because the first one is called Dead Reckoning Part 1, and then the next one is called The Final Reckoning. It's not called Part 2,
Hmm.
which is funny. Um, I really liked both of them. I think it was a good conclusion to the series. I think a lot of people are talking about it being really slow, which it is. It's just a ton of character actors doing exposition the whole time. It's really funny as kind of the final movie because no action happens in it.
It's the final movie.
Yes, it is. Well, me and the friend I saw it with, we think they're definitely gearing up for like a spin-off series, not featuring Tom Cruise.
Gotcha.
It's the last Tom Cruise Mission Impossible, or is supposed to be. And
Hmm.
it kind of is, uh, how do you say it? Like, its conclusion is very final. Like, technical difficulty. So the conclusion, as I was saying, is very like I can't think of the word for it, but it's very final, and it's like it's very
Wraps up nicely.
yeah, kind of, but like the way it ends is like a very definitive like this is the last movie statement, kind of like they go so far, they do everything like I don't know how they shrink it back down for the next movie. Like it is so all encompassing. Like the end of the movie is kind of implying that world peace has been achieved. I'll say that. Thanks to the Mission Impossible team, the
Gotcha.
Impossible Mission Force, I should say. Um,
See,
but
this is a huge blind spot for me. I really haven't
yeah,
seen
the
many.
the movies are great. I mean, I kind of I love the Fast and Furious franchise, and I would kind of like equate them
Yeah,
to they're
yeah.
kind of similar. Mission Impossible, I'd say you could take a bit more seriously.
They're both
Um,
like action blockbuster
right,
series.
right. Fast and Furious is definitely a little goofier and kind of funnier. I think they're easier to poke fun
They're
at.
campy,
Yeah, exactly. They're way campier. Mission
right?
Impossible movies are not very campy. They're pretty serious. But I like that they take themselves seriously enough because that's what it leads
Yeah,
to.
it
It's
keeps
just
you
like
in it.
great scenes of like exposition and
Hmm.
kind of love it. But the thing I thought, so I watched part one. I think the night before I went to see part two, and I kept thinking of scenes, and I was like, "Oh, that's such an awesome scene." There's about a 20-minute car chase sequence through the heart of Rome, where Tom Cruise is handcuffed to this woman, and they're driving like this electric Fiat, and she doesn't know how to drive it, and so it's a wonderful setup. And then I keep thinking about all these great scenes, and they're all in part one. So I
Really?
think that might be a testament to maybe I didn't really like part two that much because none of the scenes that like I keep thinking about fondly are in part two.
And that's interesting because part 2 you saw in theaters,
Yes.
so you would think that
Right.
would be.
But part two is just so light on action. Like it really is just like a very
How's the acting?
oh, I mean it's great. Tom Cruise is always good.
Ving
Simon
Rhames.
Simon Ving Rhames, I will spoiler alert, he does die in the movie. That's kind of the big because
Wow,
he's the only other actor that's been in every single movie.
that's why. Yeah.
But his health is pretty bad in real life, so it's
Oh,
kind of
I hate
crazy
that.
because in part one he's kind of up and moving. He gets a lot to do in part one, and then part two with kind of no explanation, he's like in a hospital bed. And so I think they were just working around like his real life constraints
Mm.
in that, but it is kind of jarring to see him like that. But Simon Pegg is great. Simon Pegg kind of gets more of a leadership role in this one. There's a lot of scenes of him kind of leading the new crew, so I think that's maybe setting up for him kind of taking over the leadership role in possible spinoff films. Um,
Good
Full
for
of
him.
tiebacks, full of fan service. you'll either love that or you'll hate it, because
I think
it is corny.
fans of the franchise would probably appreciate it.
Yes, it is kind of crazy though, like the amount of callbacks, and I feel like at least like 20 minutes of this almost 3 hour long movie are just straight up flashbacks, to the point where you're like, we remember, like it flashes back to a flashback earlier in the movie, if you know what I mean, and you're kind of like, we got it.
Weird, but it's a long film
It's
too, isn't
very
it?
long. It's a very long
So there's
film.
no reason, because if it was 90 minutes, you're like, oh, they had to fill time.
Right. No, no,
Huh.
it really strikes me as they don't trust the audience,
Yeah.
to remember these things. But I'm talking like I didn't like it, but I did like it at the time. I guess the more I think about it, it's fine. I like all the films leading up to it much more than I like the final one, but it is a good conclusion to the series. So,
Good stuff.
mhm.
Okay, I'll start off with one that I watched called Afterlife. Completely different. Golly, man, couldn't be more different. 1990s Japanese film. Really interesting plot. Let me try and give a breakdown here. It essentially is about after you die, it looks like an abandoned school building in Tokyo, and all these people come there, and there are these workers there, and they're like, "Your job now is to think about your favorite memory, and we're going to recreate it on film for you, and we're going to
Interesting.
screen at the end of the week, or I think like 3 days, we're going to screen all of the films in the room, and then after that, you move on." And I was like, I really like that idea. I think it's really
Yeah, that's
cool.
cool.
Something I'll say that's kind of interesting about it is, and I have to give a shout out to the Criterion Channel. I was able to watch one of their special features on the app where the director speaks about his inspiration, and he talks about like his grandfather having Alzheimer's and just not thinking about, like, it's crazy to think about, you won't remember anything in your life. So
Right.
he's like, what would be the most impactful moment? And then he also talked about his tumultuous family growing up, like his mom and dad, like when they get mad at each other, like his dad would like rip her out of family photos.
Oh,
And then when she
geez.
died, like there wasn't many left. Yeah, so he
Oh,
was.
wow, that's
Yeah,
fucked
I know
up.
it's pretty dark, right?
Yeah.
But what's interesting about it too is the stories in the movie, because that's the fun of the movie, is it's like this interview room.
Sounds like it could be. It's like kind of a pastiche type movie.
Pastiche.
Like, well, I mean it more of like a verb, as in it's like a lot of kind of different scenes, or like.
A lot of it is interviews, and that's I'll get to
Is
that.
that
I'll
not a
get to.
word, pastiche? Or like, I know
It
the.
probably is. I feel like a dum dum. I don't
No,
know.
I know. Now I feel like it. That's what I'm
All
asking.
right,
Because I feel like an
give it a
idiot.
Google. I'm
All
talking.
right.
Keep that screen up, but give it a Google. I'm
Yeah.
talking. So they
Am I
have
an idiot?
a lot of the film is interviews. So it's like a direct like camera on the people talking about their life. And it's funny, you hear people talk about women, like these old men talking about like, oh, all this women I loved. And then there's this one woman, this old woman who like is really into like trees
I
and
think I'm an
plants.
idiot. I don't think that's a word.
Really?
No,
Oh,
pastiche. So it's. But what would be the verb of that?
there you go. It came up. Oh,
No, that's just pastiche.
imitation. So what does pastiche mean?
Pastiche is a imitates the style of character, work of one or more artists. So I mean, like I think of a pastiche as like like unconnected scenes, kind of like, or maybe not even unconnected, just like a movie that's full of different set pieces, different scenes that like maybe have some loose connection.
Mm.
Like, I'm trying to think of a movie that would be like a good example of like pastiche. Like, I mean, kind of like Nashville, like movies like that have
That
like
that
large
that
ensemble
Michael
pieces.
Haneke film. That's like it's like chronologies of like 72
I
fragments.
mean, yeah, sound exactly like
Like it's
something
like
like that.
different
Yeah,
fragments in
exactly.
life.
Like
Okay,
22 short films about Springfield.
there you go.
There's a Simpsons reference, but that would be a
Perfect.
pastiche.
Big Simpsons fans over here.
Yes.
Okay, so like I said, in the film, they're interviewing all these people. You hear all these funny stories. In real life, they had 500 people being interviewed for their stories, which I thought was really cool too. They just had people come in, and the guy got the idea too of the people filming last scene because he worked for a long time in Japanese television, and he was talking about cutting rooms, and he was like, I was up all night doing this work. He's like, I thought I was gonna die in like a cutting room, like the idea of like
Yeah,
editing production. And so he's like, that's why I thought it'd be funny if like after you died, like you come and like you have to keep doing that.
that's
You know what I
funny.
mean?
Yeah.
So really it's the idea of limbo, or he calls it shononaka, which I guess is like the Japanese term for that
Okay.
sort of thing.
Purgatory kind of.
Exactly. And what's interesting too is because you think you're like, how can you make a full film out of this? and then it becomes more in the second half about the characters who've decided to stay and help others. And so there's a great line to this guy talking about his time in the war. The war, he's like surrounded by
Mhm.
American soldiers. He's like, I wanted a cigarette, and I was like, give me a cigarette. And it's interesting him talking about like surviving that. The idea is also graduating from life. Like the director's like, I didn't want it to be about death, and actually the American title is Afterlife. The Japanese title is something else that's more, encompassing the idea of just like,
Mhm.
let me see here. Oh, this is a really interesting part as well. So the cinematographer he chose to work with was one he had never worked with, who only did documentary
It's
films.
cool.
And he talks about, he's like, the production company
It's
was
like a
like,
different type of shooting entirely.
right.
Mhm.
So that's what's a great part of it too, is you think at the end of the movie, because he talks about this, he's like, originally I wanted the second half of the film to be the screening room and you're watching these screenings.
It's
And he's
cool.
like, but the documentary film cinematographer just shot whatever he wanted to.
Right.
And he's like, as I watched, he was taking up all this reels. The production company was like, hey, he was like, I had an argument with them where they're like, you have to stop filming, like you have to just take this production. And he's like, while I was on the phone with them, someone came in and was like, hey, he's shooting something else right now. Like he
That's
just like was going
awesome. That's
against
so
them,
funny.
and he's kind of mad. And then he watched it and he realized it was more impactful. And I would say this as well in the movie, the second half isn't even, you're not watching the screenings, you're watching the people themselves like get to make the film. And like he focuses on their face as like watching. So there's an old woman who talks about like a little girl like doing a dance in red shoes, which you imagine is like her when she was a child.
Right.
And her face, like seeing the little girl do it and being like, this looks exactly like what I was talking about, is like it's more impactful that way, where you get to see like the characters, or
Sounds
the real life
beautiful.
people, exactly.
Hmm.
And so I thought that was pretty incredible that he decided to move that. And then after that, I think that he's worked with that cinematographer like every
That's
film
awesome.
after that. This director, I want to say his
Yeah. What
name
else
is
has he made?
Corieta, has made like a ton of like, he made that movie Shoplifters that came out a few years
Oh yeah,
ago.
yeah. Okay, that was a
Yeah,
big
he's
movie a few
all of his
years ago. Yeah,
movies,
yeah, yeah.
every single one of his movies are like,
Is that not the
big
same guy
hits.
that made Drive My Car?
No, I don't think so. Here,
Oh, I'll look him
can you
up.
look it up? Let me see what I also have on it. Yeah,
You're kind of averaging like one Japanese movie a week. I feel like in our recaps, which is not a bad thing at
right.
all.
And another thing he mentions too is they chose somebody. They selected one of these people's stories and were like, "Hey, we want to film you in the story." And the person kind of got nervous and was like, "I lied. They lied about the story." So he's like, "I loved that." So he's like, "I incorporated a character. We didn't use his or her story, but they incorporated a character that talks about, what if my favorite memory was a
Hmm.
dream I had? You know what I mean? It's the idea of like, and so I really liked the additional material that I really gained a lot of my insight from the director, is called Memory is Ever Changing. When people recollect it, it's like memory is not a fossil, which I thought was really cool
This
too.
guy's name is Hirokazu Kurita.
Coriata, yeah, yeah.
Koreeda.
Hmm.
He's made a lot of movies. He averages like a movie a year. Um,
Yeah. Shoplifters is a big one.
Shoplifters is the only
Like
one
Father, like Son, Still Walking.
nobody knows.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah, well, it
Afterlife.
was great. Well,
Interesting.
that's yeah, what I'll say about it. It's
Interesting.
definitely not a movie for everybody. Like a Mission Impossible fan would not watch this film.
Yeah, so I
Like,
wouldn't like it.
no, you might. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well,
It's a peaceful. I watched it on a rainy day, and I think that helped.
hello.
Kind of a peaceful film.
All right. Well, so next movie I watched then was oh, sorry, were you done? I didn't mean to
Yeah,
cut
yeah.
you off.
No, I
Okay.
was
The Keep, Michael Mann's second film.
okay.
Not a movie I liked whatsoever.
That's a shame because you're a
Very,
big Michael Mann
yes,
fan,
I love Michael
and we'll be
Mann.
talking about him. He's an
Yeah, oh
American
yeah,
director.
yeah, big American director. Worth mentioning. The crazy thing is that he had already made Heat. It's a movie that feels like you'd be like, oh, I could see this being the director's first movie, and it's like, no, he already made like a masterpiece. Like
But it's kind of a step outside of his
it
comfort
is, it
zone.
is. So it reminds me. It feels like it should be more of like a John Carpenter film, and
What
it's
is
it's very bizarre. It's
he
got
does?
so anyway, it stars Ian McKellen in like one of his earliest roles, even though he's like in his 60s already.
Really?
Yeah, I mean maybe he's not that old, but he's
Mm-hmm.
an older man.
Because he was originally like theater.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's a
Yeah.
huge theater guy. He was already a sir at that point, and he'd barely even been in movies.
Hmm.
So that should tell you how
Interesting.
prominent he was in the theater. He'd already been knighted
Hmm.
at that point. Um, yeah, very strange movie. You think because it involves like Nazis hunting down this sacred ritualistic type place, I guess, like this temple, the keep, as they say. If you're a fan of movies where they say the name of the movie in the film, you'll really like this one because they say it about 30 times.
Nice.
But I don't know. You think it's going somewhere with like Ian McKellen's this concentration camp. Oh, I shouldn't say survivor because it's currently happening. It takes
Hmm.
place in World War II. They pull him out of the concentration camp because he's an archaeologist. So it's like that's one aspect. You're like, oh, that's pretty cool. But then it turns into like a monster movie. Like halfway through, there's an alien that shows up out of nowhere. It's just really bizarre.
Well,
Um,
it is kind of cool too because that's like the whole thing with like the Nazis is they were searching for like
oh
the
no,
Holy
for
Grail,
sure.
like all these sacred
It's
relics.
got a lot of ideas and a lot of interesting ideas. They just don't come together very well, and it's kind of all over the
Right.
place. Tangerine Dream score, probably my least favorite of all those Tangerine
Really?
Dream movies. Yeah, it's kind of obnoxious, which but people seem to like it. Some people, I guess,
I
but
wouldn't say it's
no, it's widely disliked. But I do think it has its fans. But and I'm a big style over substance guy, but this movie had too much substance that I could not
too much
just take.
style.
No, it's extremely stylistic, but it tries to cram in like style over substance. Films I enjoy are like maybe there's not so much going on plot wise, but it's got a great style. But
Hmm.
this movie is too much going on plot wise, and so
Right.
like the wonderful style, like the Michael Mann kind of that '80s synthy style, cannot save the movie from just being kind of gibberish.
Hmm. Maybe you got a big head. It's like
Maybe,
I got
maybe.
some things I want to say.
Yeah, it is crazy that he made Thief before that though, because Thief is an excellent, excellent film.
Okay, Thief. I thought you said Heat earlier, but that
No,
makes more
no, no, no,
sense.
Thief.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. The next, you have anything else you want to say?
No, 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 not about the Keep.
This is one that you're gonna have to help me on because you watched it previously. You talked about it in a previous episode. I finally watched Twilight.
Hmm.
My wife wanted to watch it. I watched it. Another rainy day film. We've had a lot of rain here in
Mm-hmm.
Nashville. You know what? I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it.
No, no, I don't hate it
I
at
think it
all.
looks really good. I think it looks really good.
It has a style, doesn't it? Like it
It's
has it
funny
has a
too.
style.
There's scenes where you're like, oh, this is like special effects have not held up.
Well, it was made for very cheap too. It
Really?
was a very low budget film.
Hmm.
Like it was
Wow.
not a big budget, major studio movie. I believe forget what studio made the Twilight movies, but they essentially became a major studio because of making those movies, I believe.
Wow.
Like so it was like a lower to mid
Right.
budget film.
It's funny that the two main actors kind of hate their time on it. I think that's kind of
Yeah.
well known that
Yeah.
Kristen Stewart and Pattinson didn't love it. The thing I will say, my criticism is you can tell it was a book in the sense that one scene will happen and you're like, oh, we missed like 50
Yeah.
pages of like
Right.
characters developing.
For
And
sure.
yeah, I don't have much else to say. I mean, I don't know if I'll watch the rest of the films. I can understand why people appreciate it. If you're a fan of movies where the original writer is in it, like the old Spider-Man's with Stan Lee, Stephanie Meyer makes an appearance with
Wait, really?
the famous line, "Here's your coffee, Stephanie," and she goes and like types on her
Oh
computer. You
no,
know what I'm talking
I don't
about? They're
remember
in a
that. No,
cafe. I
that's
was
so
like,
funny.
that's so funny. Yeah,
It's like the biggest.
yeah.
Yeah, that's very funny. But I would say the thing that I was surprised about is like they're very widely derided and mocked for being like goofy, but
Right.
they're very intentionally campy. Like
Yeah.
I don't think
The baseball scene. You talked about the
yeah,
baseball. I
the
haven't even
baseball
brought
scene
that
is
up.
crazy, but it's
It's
like
kind of
funny.
fun.
It's
It's
kind
kind
of
of
fun,
fun.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like
Where he's like doing tricks with the
yeah,
bat
and
and
like when
stuff.
you watch it, not to take it like that seriously. Like the movie
Yeah.
is not like I don't
No,
know, like
no.
the movie is intentionally
Oh, here's
campy.
another thing I have to say too. That's so funny because it's like a romance. Like it was
Yeah,
like written for like teen girls.
yeah,
So
it's like
I
a
love
teen
I
fantasy
love that it
romance.
follows most of the vampire like code of
Mm-hmm.
what they deal with. But then when they step in the light, they like shine. Like it's like they
It
look
has glitter.
pretty. Yeah, they look
Yeah,
like pretty
it's so
versus like
funny.
instead of like looking ugly and
Yeah.
horrid and
Well, I think if you watch the other ones, you find out they're like essentially made of stone. Is like why they do that.
hmm.
But I don't know. I kind of appreciate those movies
Hmm.
in a
Yeah,
weird
absolutely.
way.
Nothing
But
wrong with them.
they're a good time.
Okay, what's next on yours?
So next on mine is a film called Trouble in Mind, a 1985 film by this director Alan Rudolph. And so this guy was a protege of Altman, actually.
Okay,
Um,
could you tell that with the film?
no, not really.
Okay.
I don't know, not really. It's a very kind of low budget. It's a really weird movie. The only way you can tell is he uses a lot of Altman guys in his movies. So
Right.
it's got like
Okay.
Keith Carradine is like the star of most of his films. obviously a big Altman
Mm-hmm.
player. I didn't love it. It stars Chris Christopherson. Um,
A few duds there, huh? Back to back.
yeah, a couple duds. But I mean, it was interesting. It's one that's been on my watch list for a weirdly long time because it's got such an illicit poster that just kind of
Hmm.
looks interesting, and you see like images of like Keith Carradine in the movie, and he's done up in all this crazy like '80s makeup. And so I was like, what, I want to find out what this guy's deal is. Like, what leads Keith
Yeah.
Carradine to look like this, and then you watch the movie, and he just dresses like that. Like, he starts out normal, and the idea is like the city is corrupting him, but it's like, I see the images of it and I'm like, oh, this guy must be a character or something. It's like, no, he just kind of starts dressing like that because he's getting money. And
Oh, okay.
so I don't know. It's kind of a ridiculous movie. It's kind of silly. Some people seem to really like it,
Would
but
that be pick me vibes? The idea of
kind
like
of,
dressing like
kind of. But
glamorously,
he's
or
not like, yeah,
that fits well with one of the other movies we're gonna talk
yeah.
about.
Um, but yeah, overall, I would say I didn't love it. It's got a cool vibe. It's got some good music.
Okay.
Um, so I might check out some of the other movies by this director. It's shown on the Criterion Channel right now. I think they have a couple of his films, but yeah, overall, I was not blown away by it.
Okay.
And it has some kind of weird, 80s sex vibes. I'll say that much about maybe consent has gotten a little bit firmer these
Oh
days.
wow.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
it's a little it can be a little aggressive in that department.
Well, that's
Uh,
funny because sometimes you watch a movie and you'll be like, ah, it was just the times. And you'd be like, 80s. You're like,
yeah, no,
come
this is
on.
this. I would imagine this was even a little bit tough for the
Yeah,
times.
definitely
Like,
for
yeah,
sure.
but I don't know. Some people seem to love it. I would imagine it. People that love it is kind of a style over substance thing for them.
Would you
But
recommend it at all,
I'd
or
recommend it to you
to me?
as like an interesting curio.
Curio. I like it.
Yes,
We got to.
that is
I like
a
that
true
word you're using.
curio. Yes,
Okay,
because it is
perfect.
it is a strange and unique film. Like, I don't. It also kind of exists in this place where it's like, I guess it's kind of a B movie, but it's not quite. But it's definitely not like a major,
Mm-hmm.
motion picture. Like, it is. It kind of is in this weird space between like
Gotcha.
full on underground and I don't know, but interesting movie.
Okay. The next one I'm going to talk about is another one that you've mentioned before, and you actually gave me the Blu-ray. I think one of the last episodes I got from you, The Long Good Friday.
Yes,
It's
let's
fantastic,
talk.
so good. The score,
Score is
amazing score.
one of the greatest, if not the best theme of a movie
But
ever. Yes,
yeah,
so
it's
so
great. I
classic.
still like. Yeah, I can remember it
It gets
vividly.
stuck in my head from time to time,
You think
constantly.
you're Bob
Yes,
Hoskins?
yeah, yeah. And talk about a performance.
Great
My
intro too.
God,
Him coming off the plane, walking through. Yeah, big man on campus. So good. Clearly a film about class struggles. You know, the idea of he's trying to fit in is like this upper
right?
echelon when he's actually just a mobster. Love. I mean, yeah, like you're saying, they just let him cook.
Oh, they put the camera on him and just let him go to town.
When I heard, so it was based off a book as well.
Did not know that.
I watched, yeah, some of the behind the scenes. The writer was like, when I wrote the screenplay, he was like, I had Bob Hoskins in mind. Like, it was
That's
the first
awesome.
choice.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
absolutely. And
Just choose scenery in the most spectacular way. Like,
you're gonna like this too about Bob Hoskins. So I watched, like I said, some of the behind the scenes. He's talking. He's like, he had been on Zulu, that film Zulu,
yeah.
and
Michael
he
Caine.
was like in the hospital, and they call him like, hey, you got to get back. We got a film for it. And he's like, I got a bloody tapeworm. Like, he had a tapeworm, so they had to take a while for. I think he
That's
lost a lot of
awesome.
weight, but yeah, it's great. There's some great tracking shots. The butcher shop.
I was
Yeah,
going to talk about that scene where they carry everybody in hanging from the meat racks, and the
yeah.
camera is suspended upside down, like
Hmm.
with the
I
people.
liked that
It's
too. I
such
thought it
an
was interesting.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really a tale of demise.
Mm,
Originally called The Patty Factor. There's some notes I have. Helen Mirren is
it's
very
good.
good in it.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
originally I think in the book and in the screenplay, she's kind of like supposed to be a bimbo, like kind of a dumb,
yeah. But
And Mirren was like, I want her to be, and
right.
I think it really adds to the
Yeah. No, it
movie
does. It
that
does. That she's kind of
she's
like
kind of
this.
like the rock he
Yeah,
relies
for
on to
sure.
like get
And
him in
it
the
kind of
door.
makes the ending more effective then too,
Exactly.
because it's like, even she's gotten in over her head.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great scenes between them two. Let me see what else I have here. Great one-liners. I mean, my
Oh
God.
yeah. A million amazing lines.
And you know what I like too, and it's funny. I wonder if people would struggle this now. You start the movie and you're like, what is happening? You're seeing all these random
Right.
events, and then that was the director's intentions. He's like, I wanted everybody to kind of like piece it in, and he almost had to like
Right.
change that. But I love that.
because it starts very chaotic, and
Yeah, it does. You're like,
you're like
who are these
plunged,
people? Why are they
right? You're
connected?
like plunged into the chaos of
Right.
this
But
world.
if you just give it time, things start to really kind of
Something
piece
they
together.
wouldn't do in movies these
I know,
days.
that's what I
They
mean.
didn't do it.
But it
Certainly
works
didn't
well.
in Mission Impossible.
Right?
It was
Oh yeah, I can
yes,
see that. A lot of
um,
flashbacks. It's funny.
but yeah.
Yeah. The anti-drug talk too is so
Hmm.
good. When he finds that, he's like disgusting.
Yeah,
He's like, why would people subject themselves to this filth? Yeah, it's
it's
great.
great.
If you're a fan of loud, chew the scenery actors, Bob Hoskins is your man.
God, an incredible performance. I
Hmm
think
Good
so good.
movie, just like a
Yeah,
classic, like kind of
classic
grind.
gangster
It's
film.
like yeah, like
Yeah,
I almost want to say grindhouse, but it's not. But you know what I mean? It's like
no, but
grimy,
it
kind
is
of
grimy.
gritty.
Yeah,
Yeah,
gritty.
hmm
Yes, of the likes of Get Carter or any of
exactly.
those great British
The American
gangster
version would be like
films.
Friends of Eddie Coyle, something like
There you
that.
go. That's a great parallel.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. You got how many more do you have that you've watched?
I think I just have the one that we both watched.
Okay, then I'm going to talk about another one really
All right.
quick that I would recommend to
Oh,
everybody.
actually, I do have one more.
Okay, you
I
got it.
watched The Royal Tenenbaums for the first time
That's right.
ever. I really liked it. I would not say I'm the biggest Wes Anderson fan in the world, but I know that's kind of, I guess, Grand Budapest these days is kind of considered his magnum opus. But
Which I wouldn't say is my favorite either. I think well,
no,
I think yes, I think that's
it's probably
him.
his best movie.
It's him at the top of his game.
Yes. But Royal Tenenbaums, I think, is such an important movie in his career because it's kind of like the one that cements him as Wes Anderson.
Yeah,
And then,
I remember when we were kids, that was the one that
yeah,
everybody was talking
for
about.
sure, it's still probably one of his most famous, if not still his most
Great
famous movies.
cast.
Yeah, wonderful cast. I mean, R.I.P. Gene Hackman, he's fantastic in it.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
just all around.
That's a role that like it felt like it was like made for him. You
Yeah,
know what I
right,
mean?
right.
He
Yeah,
plays it
he's
so
so
well.
good.
He's cheeky.
Yeah, he is. He's very cheeky. I kind
Yeah.
of think Luke Wilson steals the show a bit too. I really like him in it.
I think people would agree with that.
Yeah, he's just really good, and it does kind of focus on his character more so than like Ben Stiller or like some of the other characters. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously Owen Wilson is fantastic
Owen
as
Wilson.
well.
I was gonna say
He
I
steals
kind
the
of
show a
steals
bit
the show.
too.
Yeah, he's great.
As being
He's an
kind of
interesting
the
character. The characters, it's one of those movies where it's like the characters are all like funny and you're kind of it's like, but like all the characters are like sad.
oh yeah,
You
it
know what
is
I
a
mean? Like,
sad
even
movie.
Owen Wilson is like a
It's a
sad
dark, like
character.
sad movie. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's multiple times where he's like, I need help, and then he like
Yeah.
doesn't get it,
Mhm.
and he goes back to drugs. Danny Glover,
Danny
great
Glover.
too.
Yeah,
I
it was
mean,
great.
Angelica Houston.
Danny Glover, I would say, is kind of like the cement of
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that keeps
he's
everybody.
kind of the emotional heart of the film because
Yeah.
you want Angelica Houston to marry him.
Yeah,
Like
that's right.
you want them to get together. But yeah, I really loved it, and I don't always love Wes Anderson. His style can be kind of knocking you on the head a bit sometimes, especially in like his more recent films like Asteroid City. It's kind of like
See, I haven't seen that one.
I get it.
Yeah,
But
for
Royal
sure.
Tenenbaums was really really good.
I think you should watch Life Aquatic. That's
Yeah,
my
I need
favorite
to.
of his. It's
And
summertime too. It's a
I mean,
summertime
Life
movie.
Aquatic is kind of his like blank check movie because Royal Tenenbaums was so popular, and then he made it, and it bombed.
Which is
And
crazy because I mean, I'm also a huge Bill Murray fan. Owen Wilson's great in it. It's
Bill Murray's great in it too. And
That's
Royal
right. Yeah,
Tenenbaums,
I
he's
kind of forgot he's in
and
it. He's
Gwyneth
like the
Paltrow.
archaeologist, right?
He's Gwyneth Paltrow's husband.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
gosh.
no, he has my favorite line in the movie when he hires the private investigator to find out if she's been cheating on him, and it shows like a montage of every time she's cheated on him, and it's a bunch, and he just goes, he's like, "You've made me a cuckold many times over."
Yeah.
And I think it's such a funny line.
That's great. Oh yeah, good film.
Mhm.
You should watch. Yeah, Life Aquatic.
know.
I think is
Need to watch Life
and
Aquatic.
Rushmore.
Rushmore and Moonrise Kingdom are my big blind spots for
Okay.
him. I think I've
But
seen
I
every
was
other
shocked.
movie.
Yeah, I've seen all of his movies except the past few.
I do think I've literally seen every
Mhm.
other of his movies besides
Great.
those two.
Okay. Well, that's easy. I mean, anybody who's watching a movie podcast has probably
Right.
seen or at least heard about that movie.
Mhm.
All right.
Hey.
This is okay.
This is going to be on Mike.
Yeah. All right. Before we talk about the movie we both watched recently, last one I have on mine, I would highly recommend Hard Eight. Another one of an early one of an American director that we'll probably talk about later. Hard Eight is the first film by Paul Thomas Anderson. I needed to do more research because I want to know how did he get it made with the actors he has.
Well, I told you it's kind of like a pseudo sequel to
Midnight Run,
because
which I have not seen.
Philip Baker Hall is playing like a gambler in Midnight Run.
But in Midnight Run, he's like a side character.
Yeah. Oh no, he's a very minor character in Midnight Run.
Okay.
But I think the idea was Paul Thomas Anderson obviously loved Midnight Run and was like, it'd be interesting to like see that like this character like more of his story.
Right.
And so he originally wanted the movie to be called Sydney because that's the character's name.
That's right. So yeah, I'll just say, I loved, these are the notes. I try to take notes now when I'm watching. So I love the mounting score on the opening scene. That's a great part. I mean, John C. Reilly and his, the first interaction, that's the beginning of the movie. John C. Reilly's just sitting outside of his coffee
Hmm.
shop. You can tell he's down on his luck. And he just comes up and says, "Hey, let me buy you a cup of coffee." And that's the idea. It's like he's like training this kid almost to be like he is in the casinos. Because it all takes place in these casinos. I want to say it's in
Right.
Reno.
It is.
Yeah, and he's yeah, it's just it's great. He's kind of a lonely gambler,
Hmm.
and I saw a video a long time ago. It stuck with me. This another great YouTuber, Thomas Flight, did on like Paul Thomas Anderson films, and he talked about how like a lot of his films are like a father son dynamic, like
Hmm.
a father figure who isn't the biological father. And this is, I mean, like just nail on the head. Like that's the idea is Sydney, you kind of learn more about him. He doesn't really talk to his kids, and he treats John C. Reilly and Gwyneth Paltrow sort of as like his
Right.
his children, and just the
We,
chaos
we
that
a lot of
ensues.
Gwyneth Paltrow talk
Yeah,
because we got
Gwyneth
the next
Paltrow.
one too.
Yeah, that's right. She's great in all of
Oh
them,
yeah,
but she's
yeah,
great
she
in
is.
this. What's funny about this movie is Samuel L. Jackson as sort of the bad guy of the
Yeah.
film. It's crazy. It's crazy the difference between his dialogue in this film versus his dialogue in a Tarantino film. Because he's playing. I told you it came
Hmm.
out. This came out before Jackie Brown, but I was like, this is like him as like the style of
Oh
that
well, yeah. I
character.
mean, because I was gonna say, does he get like the and or something in it? Because he's not
Yes,
one
he
of the
does.
okay. Because it is post Pulp Fiction, so it is like in his run
Hmm.
where he's one of the biggest
And he's
guys
great. I mean, everybody's great in it.
in Hollywood.
I'm telling you, Scene Stealer, Philip Seymour Hoffman is in. I swear to God, maybe 3 minutes of the movie. He's in one scene. His character's name is literally just like young craps player, but
That's
he's
funny.
so
It's
funny, man.
awesome.
He's like Shooby, Shooby Dooby Dooby, and he's like, old man. He's like, you're not gonna put money down. He's like, all right, I'll tell you what, old man. He's like, I'm gonna light this cigarette, give you time because I know you're slow. And he's like, after that, you can fuck off. Like it's just
I feel like I
great.
may have like seen that scene
Really?
before.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
so
that's
good,
funny.
man. He's great. He's like, come on, hit me. And the movie's called Heart 8 2, which is a great, kind of come around.
It's a great title.
When Samuel Jackson becomes a part of the film because John C. Reilly starts hanging out with him,
Hmm.
and he comes up to me. He's like, I've seen you before. Like I saw you back in Atlantic City. You put 2,000 on the Heart 8, which I guess is just like a gambling term, which I don't know. I'm not big on the gambling. We don't have legal gambling here,
No,
so. But
just sports.
in the end of the movie, there's a scene where Samuel L. Jackson's doing the same thing. I'm not going to spoil
Yeah,
anything, but
oh, that's awesome.
great film. I mean, really, like I said, you watch it and you're like, how did I get made? Because I don't know
Hmm.
how he had all these star-studded characters, but it is. I mean, it's a great script. It's definitely not his best. I mean,
Right,
by far, it's like
but it's
if
his
you
first
think
movie.
that's what I was gonna say. If you think Paul Thomas Anderson is a 5-star director, like you've given his movies like 4.5, 5 stars, this would be a 4-star, which is still so impressive. Like, you know what I mean? It's like we
Yeah,
talk about like Blood
right,
Simple or something, where it's
right.
like it's so impressive that this director made
That
his first movie,
that's what
and you
they
would
came out of
watch
the
it and be
gates
like,
with.
he's destined
Yeah,
for greatness.
right.
Jonathan Glazer, like Sexy Beast, I
Hmm.
think that's his first film,
I
right?
think maybe.
Because I know he directed a lot of Radiohead music, but
Yeah,
that's the same thing. It's like a movie
right.
where you're like, oh, I can see why this guy
Well, and then
became.
it makes sense of how he would be able to get like Boogie Nights made right
Hmm.
after it because people would watch Hard Eight and be like, "Oh, this guy
And it
is
made
going to be
nothing.
great."
I remember
Yeah.
looking at the box office. I swear to God, it cost like a couple million to make. It made like
Yeah,
$200,000.
which is awful.
And that's how you know that somebody in Hollywood liked him, because
Right.
then to give him
Because
that.
it's probably a movie that was getting passed around like
Right.
amongst like
I
industry
would like to know
people.
more about Paul Thomas Anderson's like relation to Hollywood. Like I wonder if he was like just like an in man, like he
Yeah.
worked with people, because it's crazy they got made. Like I said, but I mean, thank God it did. He's great. There's flashes in it of the greatness that Paul Thomas
Right.
Anderson like come to show us. So, all right, let's get to the last one,
Yep. Movie we both watched. Talented Mr.
The
Ripley.
Talented Mr. Ripley,
Right.
which is a popular one right now.
Yes.
It's on
Yes.
Criterion
Yes.
Channel.
I feel
There's a
like
new
it's kind of
show,
having a renaissance.
the Tom Ripley
In a sense,
character.
yeah. And a lot of people really like it, and I think maybe I don't want to speak for both of us, but I think we both found it a very effective and well-made film. But I
Absolutely,
don't know if we connected
like
with
is
it in the
a
sense, yeah,
strong term.
like it's so good at eliciting like emotions of terror.
It's so
It gives
uncomfortable,
you so much
which is
anxiety,
so funny.
which
Because for people who don't know, like, you know what it is, but you haven't. You would think, I think it's going to be like a Catch Me If You Can, sort of a fun watch, and it is like there's I mean, I guess we cuss in this all the time, but
yeah,
there's literally parts where I'm just like, what the fuck?
yeah,
Like, it's
right.
crazy.
It is.
So much happens too.
It's deeply unnerving. And like,
So much happens.
yes,
It's 2 hours 13 minutes. It's a long movie.
it is.
But even talking, because I had to watch it in 2 parts. I started last night. It's so
I
long.
watched it in 2 parts as well.
And I was talking to my wife about it. We were watching the second half. I was like, oh yeah, that happened earlier too. Like it's so much happens.
Yes. But I think the best thing to be said about it is it is so effective in eliciting like deeply unsettling emotions, and in like not the traditional sense, like
No,
nothing like the scenes that are the most distressing and like the most like that
are
just
not violent.
no
Yeah.
like they're the
Yeah.
scenes literally the scenes where it's just Matt Damon and Jude Law
It's the
hanging out,
relationship
and
they
it's
have.
so you know like something is gonna happen, and then it
Yeah.
like it's almost relief when Jude Law gets killed because I'm like, God, we don't have to deal with that like awkward tension
But then it
anymore.
gets right back up.
It does, but I did honestly feel like a sigh of relief when that happened. So I was like, it's
It's
leading up to it.
yeah, brutal.
And talk about a show stealing performance. Jude Law, I think,
Jude Law
is
is
really good.
yeah,
Philip Seymour
very.
Hoffman
Philip
as
Seymour Hoffman's
well.
pretty
It's
good. Yeah,
awesome.
Gwyneth Paltrow's great.
Gwyneth Paltrow, good too.
But honestly, this is Matt Damon. For those of you who just know Matt Damon as like Jason Bourne or The Martian or
yeah,
what's the one where the where he's like going undercover for like McDonald's. He like works for corn. You know what I'm talking about?
no.
You know what I'm talking about? The Informant. Right? Isn't
Oh
that what it's
yeah,
called?
yeah. That is
Yeah.
Informant.
This is totally different.
Yeah, it's a good performance.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's really out of his
He's
wheelhouse.
deeply unsettling.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what's great about it too is you start this movie and you're following his character Tom Ripley, and the whole setup is Dickie Greenleaf, Jude Law, is in Italy. He went to where did they go? Stanford,
Princeton, I
Princeton.
believe.
Yes, Princeton. You're right because it's New York. Princeton, and Dickie Greenleaf's dad gives Tom Ripley the opportunity to go to Italy to find his
great
son.
James Rebhorn, fantastic character actor,
Yes.
in many great things.
He's like, I'll give you $1,000, and this is 1950, so $1,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
To go to Italy, find my son, and try and convince him to come home. And so that's the setup, and you're rooting for Rip. You're like, okay, this is going to be Tom Ripley. He's the good guy. He's the good guy.
Yeah.
And then you watch
because you're like, oh, this like extravagant playboy son. You're like, fuck this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah.
And the more you watch, you're like, okay, he's getting in. He's telling me when to. Oh, I knew you at Princeton. Like, let's go get lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they're hanging out together, this is the first scene where I was just like blown away. He starts to impersonate his dad, and that was he's like everybody has one talent for what's yours. And he's like forging checks, signature. And the more you watch, he's just like enamored with every human and is like mimicry.
He has no personality of himself, so he just like takes on the personality and the mannerisms and like persona of like the people he's around.
Which I never knew. I mean, that's the other thing. The title of The Talented Mr. Ripley, I'm like, oh, this guy's going to be just like a showman, a jack of all trades. But it's like an ironic title.
Yeah,
like, he does nothing.
Yeah. But he is talented in the sense of like he's able to infiltrate all these groups, kind of just being like a nothing. And there's definitely something to be said there too about like that all these people are attracted to a guy that's essentially just like a hollow void or like an echo chamber for like their own personality.
This isn't. I'm not gonna. Like, we're gonna go through the movie, but the ending. That's what he says to that guy Peter. He goes. I wanted to be. He's like, I thought it would be better to be like
be a fake somebody than a real nobody. Yeah, right. And so, I think it says something about the people that are like associating with him too. Is that like they're nobodies also? Like if they're gonna like hang around a guy like this, I don't know.
They're just like vain.
Yeah, exactly. But
it's
the
star-studded cast too.
Yeah, great cast. It's directed by this guy Anthony Minghella.
I was going to ask you about him. You know more about him than I do.
I don't really know much about him. He directed The English Patient, was his previous film, which won Best Picture, ton of Oscars, and so this was actually his follow-up movie to The English Patient, which is kind of interesting to consider.
I can't imagine it did well. Can you?
No, it's kind of a big movie, I think.
It is, but I feel like if I was like, oh, like Matt Damon, unless I don't know what the trailers were like back then,
right?
But you walk in, it's not at all what you expect it to be.
I mean, Matt Damon was kind of big at the time, I think
something else I want to say, it's a very musical movie.
Yes,
it's so musical. There's like full scenes of jazz, full scenes of opera, which I love.
It was a big hit.
That's okay, good.
It made a lot of money. Yeah,
interesting.
It's a big hit.
Because like I said, we both finished it, and it's like it left me feeling like, man.
I know. I can't imagine like flooding into the theater to see like, you're like, oh, this guy made like the Best Picture winner a few years ago, and then like you just stricken with dread immediately. Like you're like, oh my god.
Yeah. It's crazy, man.
He also made that movie Cold Mountain, also starring Jude Law. A few
Hmm.
years later, I know that was kind of a big Oscar-y movie. I don't know what the cultural footprint of that is these days, but
Oh, wait.
um,
I'm sorry. I trailed off earlier. I have to get back to this. The scene where he tells him, mimicry forging.
it's a great
He's
scene.
like, all right,
I
we'll
love
do
that.
somebody,
Yeah,
like step into somebody's character, and then he starts acting as his dad, like
yeah.
saying everything his dad
But
would say, and it's blowing his
kind
mind.
of an unbelievable scene,
It's
though.
blowing his mind, and you're like, oh, like okay, this is where it ends. Like he's just gonna be like, oh, I know your dad. And he's like, that's why we're friends. And then he keeps going.
Then he
Like
just says
it's
it.
the first break of like his mental. He keeps doing it, and he even repeats like he's like, go to Italy, find my son. I'll give you $1,000, bring him back home. So he just like admits everything to
Yeah,
him, and then it
I
just
know. I was
cuts to the next
shocked by
scene.
that.
That's what I mean. I was just like, what? It was like so uncomfortable.
But
It's wild.
I don't know. Like Jude Law is kind of toying with him too, and then
Absolutely.
they end up like they
It's
say they're gonna pull one
very
over on his dad.
homoerotic.
Yeah, oh, 100.
I mean, not even
Not
homo.
even
It's just
homoerotic. It comes up
homosexual.
straight up gay. Towards the
Happy
end,
Pride Month. Yeah,
but I feel
it's a
like it's
very gay
also kind of
movie.
the thing of like Matt Damon is just attracted to like anybody who gives him the time of day or like respects him as like
But nobody as much as Dickie.
no, he's obsessed with him.
But even everybody. I mean, Gwyneth Paltrow pulls him aside at one point. He's like, the thing about Dickie is he treats you like a toy. Like
Yeah,
when he shines his light on you, it's the best feeling in the
right,
world. And then it tosses you aside and finds somebody else.
right,
And he says that she says that to him while they're on a boat, and he's out playing with Philip Seymour Hoffman
yeah,
in the water.
yeah,
And it's like the perfect example of he's just like moves along to the next thing.
right, right.
Um,
But interesting film. I think we
Crazy
could both
stuff.
say.
Should we go into the plot, or do you think it's just we leave
I
it at that?
mean,
Because
yeah, I
there's
think
so
we
much that
just. I
happens.
mean, the plot is really just like he gets obsessed with this guy and then kills him out of like.
Well, there's. I
I mean,
mean, think about
yes,
Jude Law has that other woman who throws herself in
right,
the water. That's
yeah,
what I
that's right.
mean.
He
It's
gets that
like
girl
you think
pregnant.
you're like,
Yeah,
I totally forgot that happened, and
it's
that's a
true.
crazy scene too. Where he's like, "Will someone get an ambulance?"
But
Yeah,
it all kind of comes back together because then at the end, it's kind of revealed that Jude Law like was also known to have issues that
was
we
violent
didn't. Yeah,
himself.
that we didn't know about really.
Right.
So he kind of gets away with it at the end, or
He
not
does.
kind of. He
He
just
does.
does. Like
But the ending is very ominous because
yes,
he's
because
killing the last person who knows
his
him as Tom
yes,
Ripley.
yes, yeah, his boyfriend at the time, or
Yeah, didn't deserve it, man. Didn't
no,
need it.
no, that's a dark scene too, where it cuts to black and you can hear the guy like
Like
he's like you're
choking him.
crushing me, yeah, he's
Yeah,
like yeah, and then just final shot of Matt Damon kind of
sitting
thinking
in a
about
dark
what
room.
he's done, yeah.
Well, this
That's a
is
good point. I didn't think about that. That he's killing the last person that knew he was Tom Ripley.
who's in the who's
Because Kate Blanchett is still on the boat. So I was just
right
thinking, I was like, oh, he's just killing her to like make that situation easier because she knows him as
as
Dickie.
Dickie.
But then you're right, he's killing the last person that knows he's Tom. Because then he
Pretty
has the
much because
breakdown.
Gwyneth Paltrow
Because
went back to the
right,
States
because he
with
has the breakdown and admits to him, like he wants to be like a fake somebody. And
right.
so like, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, he just mimics this. The musical scenes though are great.
It's great.
That's
yeah.
what's crazy about this movie. There are so many scenes of
there's
just.
some very whimsical scenes.
That's what I mean. It's like it cuts from like the most uncomfortable scene you have, and then it's like, oh yeah, it's beautiful Italy. They're like in a great town. They're all having fun, and then it's like back
it's
to
very
just
funny.
like, oh yeah, by the way, like this character
like also
you're following.
don't forget, like this guy like might kill this
Yeah.
guy at any given moment.
This character we're following is
He's
obsessive.
like a psychopath. Yeah.
Yes. It's nuts. And that's what I mean. It's really outside of Matt Damon's wheelhouse. He sings that song, My Funny Valentine, and it's great.
Yeah.
It's so well made. And it is. It's made like that's funny that it makes sense that it was a big blockbuster because it's really well made.
I mean, Jude Law is nominated for an Oscar. Deservedly.
Deservedly,
Yes,
yeah, for sure.
Fantastic.
He's great.
Matt Damon did not.
Philip Baker Hall makes a cameo.
Yeah, he does. He does. He's in the last scene. Almost last scene.
And it's great too because it goes back to like 1950s. There's a lot of the idea of like these Americans fleeing to Italy to be openly gay.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
like
I
a
think
big part of
that's
it.
a big like.
And then the other part of like Gwyneth Paltrow, the only character who figures it all out. The men don't listen to her.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like Dickie would just tell you whatever you want to hear.
Them at the end, like you killed Dickie, and like Dickie's dad is literally just like forcing her onto the boat. Like, doesn't want to listen to her.
Yeah,
great and they literally give him all Dickie's money.
They do,
yeah, which is crazy. Yeah.
I couldn't believe that.
I know. So he kind of gets away with everything at the end.
He really does. Shows, I mean, I think there's, it says a lot, and this was a book too, but it says a lot about like I said, like those topics, the fleeing open homosexuality, and then not just women, as well as the idea of like, I don't know if I know rich kids who like, yeah, their parents would totally be like, yeah, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah,
like, yeah. I mean, the dad, what was his name again? The actor,
James Redbourne.
James Redbourne. Rebhorn
Rebhorn, yes.
says that thing where he's like, they always say you can't choose your parents. He's like, you
Yeah.
can't choose your kids, and you
Yeah,
can tell
yeah.
he's just fed up with them.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
part of that is he's using the money. Tom Ripley's taking his money,
Yeah,
doing all
yeah.
sorts of shit with it.
Right.
So it's great.
I was gonna say too, it should be mentioned. Well, there's a lot of Ripley films. One we love, The American Friend.
That's a Ripley film.
Yeah,
Oh,
Dennis
that's
Hopper's Tom
Ripley's game.
Ripley.
That's right. That's one of the
It's based on
follow-ups.
a different. Yeah, it's
Because
based
that's
on a
what's
different
crazy
book.
too. I said the ending's so ominous, and so I had to look it up. That's the first novel,
Yeah.
and there's 4
hmm
subsequent novels.
The American Friend's based on like a following novel, but the original film
Purple
based on
Noon.
the book Purple Noon, and I read. So I was looking on IMDb, and it's interesting because you can read reviews. It's such an old site. There are reviews from like 1999 when the movie came out,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people were saying that they much preferred Alain Delon as
Tom
Ripley,
Ripley.
which I could see. He's a much more
I mean, Alain
cares. I
Delon's
mean,
the man.
he's amazing.
Yeah.
But then I think a lot of people are saying he's so much more charismatic. But I feel like it should be the way it is in Talented Mr. Ripley, where Dickie is the charismatic one, and like Tom Ripley is more of like just kind of
We should watch Purple
vessel.
Noon.
We should, but
because I want to
get what
know.
I'm
Do you
saying?
think
Like,
it's his like homoerotic too?
I would imagine not.
Like the scene where he's playing chess in the bathtub, and he's like, "Mind if I get in?" And dips
Yeah,
his hand.
yeah, it's insane. There's no way. I mean, it came out in 1960, so
Right.
um,
Good point. I wonder if
but
the book is. I mean, the book's got to be, right?
yeah, the book might be.
Yeah.
And it's written by a woman too.
Patricia
It might be
Highsmith.
a little different.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I thought that was an interesting take in that people preferred him for being more charismatic, where I feel like that character makes more sense
Not being charismatic,
yeah,
because
like
he's mimicking everything.
right.
And that's the great scene too, is when Jude Law like pulls him aside. He's like, "You didn't actually go to Princeton with me. Like, I don't remember you at all."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Do you even like jazz?" Like, because that's the whole thing, is he gets in like being like saying, "Oh, I love Chet Baker. He loves all the same jazz artists." And that's such a creepy scene too, because Matt Damon's like, "No, but I learned to like."
Yeah.
It's like a clinger,
which is also a scene that makes you realize you're like, because for the first half of the movie, you kind of feel like you're in good hands with him. You're like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. And then it comes to a point where you realize you're like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's just like he's like obsessed with this guy. He's like lost his mind. Yeah.
And he keeps lying to everyone around him.
Because at the scene you're talking about, which I think that might be my favorite scene in the movie, when he talks like his dad.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, he's
when I watched it, I hated it because it made me feel so uncomfortable.
I didn't think of that as a mental slip. I thought of that as like, this guy's confident and in control of this situation. And then you quickly see that facade like leaving.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's his first like break.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, there's so many scenes too we haven't even talked about that are just like, make your skin crawl. When he's dancing in the mirror.
Yeah.
And Jude Law
he's wearing makeup and like dressed like Jude Law.
Wearing all his clothes. Yeah.
Freaky scene. Freaky movie. Make your skin crawl.
Yeah, I know. And it's a movie that, like I said, I mean, what's so amazing about it is you would never expect that.
No.
I was like, oh, I was like, oh, watch this, Julia. Let's be a fun one. And Julia was like, Julia liked it.
Yeah,
all right, maybe more than I did.
It's deeply disturbing.
So it gives you anxiety.
It could they should like, because it's not marketed like that either. You look at it, you're like, oh, this will be like maybe like a little thriller, like kind of adventure movie. It's like they could market that better than like some horror movies, like being like, this will legitimately make you like squirm in your seat. Like,
for sure.
It's crazy though.
Mm-hmm.
All right, shall we get into our topic?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, it's a pretty broad topic.
And like I said, we're shooting from the hip. We don't have any notes on it. We're going to see how this goes.
We're just going to be having a conversation, looking on the computer a little bit too. But it's American directors, and so let's just start out. Like, what comes to mind?
I mean, obviously the big ones, the basic big ones are like Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, Scorsese. That's right. Wes Anderson for the new ones. I mean, for the
newer generation would be like Wes Anderson, PTA,
Coen Brothers,
Fincher, Coen Brothers.
Yeah, Wachowskis.
Yeah, Wachowskis. Nolan. No, Nolan's British. Nolan's British.
Okay. What about Fincher?
Fincher's American. Yeah,
Fincher.
I said Fincher.
Yeah.
And then you have older ones like Orson Welles.
Nicholas Ray. Is Nicholas Ray American?
Nicholas Ray's American.
John Ford.
Yep.
John Huston.
Yeah. See, this is such a broad topic, because it's like I always question like, why is John Huston like revered as, because I've seen quite a few of his movies, but I've never seen Treasure of the Sierra Madre,
which I feel like Maltese Falcon.
Oh yeah, maybe he did.
That's a big one too. I think
those are two like bona fide classics, but I don't know. seen like Fat City, which I really liked,
Didn't he
but
make that Wise Blood?
yes, he did make
So
Wise
I've
Blood
seen
as
Wise
well.
Blood, and did he make Under Volcano?
Yes, he did.
Okay,
So
so we've
yeah,
seen those.
and he's a prolific actor as well.
Mm-hmm.
Chinatown, obviously.
Absolutely.
Um,
Angelica Houston's
yes,
daughter.
yes, certainly.
So
But
who would you say comes to mind? I mean, like who?
Scorsese
Scorsese.
comes to mind
Scorsese's a
immediately.
great one too. Scorsese's one that I
He's
think
spanned so many decades too.
people who like just like like
Pulp,
who don't care
but
about.
like
Well, I'm saying I think he's great because as like maybe the seminal American director because
he kind of is because he fits both buckets. It's like with guys
exactly.
like Spielberg, it's like he's more of a popcorn guy.
Hmm.
I mean, film nerds do like him, but like
You can appreciate. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, a
you can
lot of
always
his films
appreciate him. But Scorsese really ticks the boxes for both like the popcorn guy and like
and like the
film
true
nerds love him.
film.
Yes, so I
Exactly.
do think he kind of is the seminal American director. But
Robert Altman would
some
be
other
for the
ones, I was gonna say
70s.
Altman, get De Palma,
De Palma,
John
yeah.
Carpenter, some more genre guys.
So that's like 70s, 80s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
70s, 80s. I mean, there's some other good ones.
The ones
Like,
we're talking about now that are kind of modern, would also
I
call
mean,
like 90s to
Stanley Kubrick,
2000s.
kind of a weird one though, because he
Mhm.
is technically American, but all of his movies are so truly British. I think through and through. He pretty much lived his entire career in Britain.
Another interesting thing
Um,
about this topic is because we might think about it differently.
Spike Lee,
Spike
something we
Lee,
haven't
wow,
mentioned.
yeah, I can't believe I mentioned him yet. Spike Lee's incredible. Well, I was gonna say another interesting is you can look at an American director as a way of like, oh yeah, like Spielberg or Lucas is like the American idea of like box office,
Right.
international hits.
No, Spielberg has this image too of like he's like the face of like movies.
Exactly.
Like the Spielberg get up, his outfit is shorthand for like movie director. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you just put on that
You know what's
outfit and
another
you
one?
get the
Ron
idea.
Howard.
Yeah, Ron Howard.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not as big of a auteur,
No,
but
but that's what I'm saying. Because when you say American directors,
right.
people may think, oh, they're just
They
talking about
think
like,
more
yeah,
popcorn.
big Hollywood, Hollywood films. Or you could be like an American director is in like this film was important to America
Yeah,
at a time.
right.
And that's where I would say like Altman might work more.
Some other ones we haven't mentioned that I'm just thinking
Well,
of a
Michael
ton off the
Mann
head.
too.
I was going to say Michael Mann, Peter Bogdanovich,
Peter
William
Bogdanovich.
Friedkin.
William Friedkin.
Thinking of 70s guys.
Friedkin
Two huge ones right there.
he slept on. He might be top.
He might be
top,
one of the best ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thankfully, I think his reputation is only growing.
Yes.
Especially with his death.
And I haven't looked at his whole film catalog, but he's somebody who didn't make a lot of movies, I don't believe, but every movie he made was kind of a hit. Like I don't think he made many bombs.
He had a tough 80s.
He had that movie in the 2002 Bug. You ever see that movie?
Yeah, no, I haven't, but
it's interesting. I don't know if it holds up.
Yeah, I think he had a tough 80s and 90s, but he definitely has had like, people kind of hate that movie Jade.
See,
but I really want to watch it.
Yeah.
Great line in it in 40-Year-Old Virgin about it. If you know what I'm talking about, where he tells him to act like David Caruso and Jade.
I don't know Jade.
Well, I don't either, but I just know that line, so I always thought it's funny.
Yeah.
Because that's what he tells him to treat women like.
Really?
Yeah, I just think it's a funny reference.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, speaking of that, you got like the comedy guys.
We haven't
like
even talked about David Lynch.
Judd Apatow. Yeah. Well, see, there's so many. This is such a broad topic. So I pulled like some lists up, and I thought it might be an interesting exercise to like look at what other people think on
Francis
this
Ford
topic.
Coppola.
Yeah, Francis Ford Coppola.
Golly, you're right. This is too much.
So many.
Here's a fun fact that I didn't know. Oh, holy cow! I have to include this.
Tarantino.
Hold up. Can really quickly. This is aside. If we make a clip out of Town to Mr. Ripley, I have to add this back in. This is insane. I sent this to you. Tommy Wiseau.
Yes, talk about best.
So I looked up adaptations because I was looking up like, oh, who wrote the books? How many books are there? Tommy Wiseau has cited The Room as an adaptation in the sense that Tommy Wiseau's character in The Room, and who kind of I think he tries to make me life, is
himself,
Dickie Greenleaf. He thinks he's Dickie Greenleaf.
He thinks he in real life is Dickie Greenleaf. Yes,
which is
so
nuts.
Funny.
Talk about a giant ego, man. That is like crazy. Like the guy who everybody is charmed by, who has all these amazing talents. I'm him.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
It's so funny.
And he made The Room.
Yep,
crazy. That's what he made.
Not an American director though.
Yeah, you're right. We're fans. We're fans. I didn't mean to sound so.
This list has a shout out to S. Craig Zoller.
Yeah. Well, I would say New American. Tarantino and Zoller are kind of like the grindhousey,
Mm-hmm. Robert Eggers.
Robert
Certainly
Eggers.
A big one
absolutely.
These days. And,
that's Ari Aster.
Alex
that's
Garland,
the
Ari Aster. Yeah,
the A24
those kind of
crew.
guys. Yeah.
Jonathan Glazer is British, but
yeah,
I think he's one of the greatest working directors right now.
Well, that doesn't count though. See,
this
is such a broad topic.
But this is what I was going to say earlier too. You told me Stanley Kubrick's American, which I would have
Yes,
never known because most of his
yes, but
films were
that's what I
British.
said. Is he's a weird one because like he spent his entire career in the UK, and his movies do feel extremely British.
You think The Shining does?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think. I mean, I'm thinking like Clockwork Orange, especially, but like even
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I mean, Clockwork Orange
But
is
then, I
British,
mean,
but
think about Full Metal Jacket too.
yeah, but like I don't know. People always tell like I don't know.
No, I know what
Like
you're
you can
saying.
tell
I know
it's
what you're
like yeah,
saying.
but like and then, like all of his movies have like a ton of like British actors in them. I mean like the guy in The Shining. I always think like the guy in The Shining that tells him to kill his family is like the same guy in Clockwork Orange. I'm pretty sure who like slaps his like nuts on the bed. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
Like you don't know the scene I'm talking about when he's like
I
it's
got to
like his like
rewatch it.
it's like his like
There's a lot of scenes I remember from Clockwork Orange.
you don't remember that one? That's like a really uncomfortable scene.
Really?
It's like his like child services guy and like comes to his house. He like slaps his balls
Oh,
when he's like sitting. I don't know,
oh
but it's
gotcha.
like it's like a lot of actors like that. Like
Hmm.
the
Kubrick
2000,
is, I mean,
2001 feels very British to me.
I
I think
agree.
that's a
But
very
if
British
we
movie.
did just classify him as an American, I mean, but then, yeah, I mean, Doctor Strangelove, that's pretty American.
I guess yeah,
Uh,
but no, Peter Sellers though.
You're right.
Peter
But
Sellers
it's, I
is
mean, I'm just
extremely
saying that
British.
takes place like in
It
America.
does,
Full
it
Metal
does. But
Jacket
that's
in
what I'm talking about. Is
America.
like
Shining
2001 technically takes place in America, but it's like
in
it
space.
feels so British.
But
Like
yes,
that's what I'm
you're
saying.
right.
It's
No,
like
you're
his
right.
movies feel
He's
British.
definitely, yeah, it was influenced.
Yeah, and like you can
But
tell they're
if we
made.
wanted to say, like, I mean, I have to say he's the best American director. If he we're just
Yes, if we
classifying
count
him
him, if
as
we
an
count him,
American,
yes, yes. If we
because I
count
think
him,
he's
yes.
also he could be argued as the
He
greatest
would be
director.
argued as like the best director ever. So
Yeah.
yes, if we count him, then that would certainly be number one. But I mean, like Scorsese, dude. I think you could put Scorsese up there as well.
I agree. So what would we say? Maybe this is kind of a different subject, but I thought maybe this would be a
No,
fun
we're
one.
just flying from the hip. So
Like what movies? Because I'm trying to think of like in decades, like what movies like meant the most to.
I mean,
Like 70s would probably be what,
70s would be like Jaws, like Star
right?
Wars,
But then for the art side, it'd be like Nashville,
Nashville. I mean, Taxi Driver could
Taxi
be
Driver.
kind of in
Is that
between.
70s?
76. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I would say Jaws and Star Wars probably the two biggest, right?
80s. One of my favorite for 80s, even though this is you're gonna say something that's much more correct, is Live and Die in LA.
Well, that's one of my favorite movies as well. But
But it's so 80s.
it is,
You
it
know what I
is,
mean?
it is. But I'd say like 80s would be like E.T., another
E.T.
Spielberg.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some other big? See, I think of 80s, like if I'm thinking of
Top
like,
Gun.
yeah, that's a good one. Good
Hmm.
call. Top Gun. See, I think of like horror in the 80s too. Like I think of like Friday the 13th and stuff like that.
Halloween
Like
was 70s though, right?
Halloween is 78, the first one.
That's what I
So,
thought.
but then all the rest of the Halloween movies are throughout the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, we should. Maybe
Nightmare
we
on
should.
Elm Street, Wes Craven. Wes Craven's a
I
guy
was
we
gonna
haven't
say
talked about.
because I cut you off earlier. You're right. Comedy. You think of comedy. There's so many great American comedy directors.
Judd Apatow.
Judd Apatow, Greg Matola.
Yeah.
Matola.
Matola.
Yeah.
Adam McKay.
Adam McKay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam McKay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always get him confused with the star of Severance. What's like his name?
Adam Scott.
Scott. Sorry.
Well, they work together.
They do.
Right? Certainly.
Ben Stiller.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Good
Ben
director.
Stiller's a great director.
Yeah.
Certainly. For a great comedy director. I'm trying to think like there's just a lot of guys. Like it's such an expansive
Well, there were some that.
Peter Bogdanovich,
Yeah,
he's kind of an
yeah.
but he's like an earlier great comedy director. He does a lot of comedy stuff. Like
Like
What's
Paper
Up
Moon,
Doc,
What's
Paper
Up Doc,
Moon, yeah, like that sort of thing. Like Noises Off or whatever
Did
that
Steve
one
Martin
is.
direct like The Jerk and stuff?
No, that's Carl Reiner.
Oh, you know that one? John Landis.
Yeah, John Landis,
Why would
Carl
you know?
Reiner.
Golly,
Carl
yeah. See,
Reiner
now
directed
this
all
is
those.
too broad.
I know it's such a large topic. It's such
Dang.
a big topic.
All right,
but,
well, maybe this is just a part one, and we'll narrow down and be
right.
like greatest
But-
horror directors.
So okay, I'll read you a list I'm looking at here. So Kubrick, Orson Welles. Well, this is kind of a weird one because it says Kenneth Anger.
Yeah,
I think it's someone that's worth mentioning. But
Yeah, we
he's
should
not
talk
a
about
guy-
Kenneth
He's
Anger.
not a guy that I would put at the top of like
Kenneth
he
Anger
made
might be
short films. He never made a full
yes,
feature
but
film.
Kenneth Anger
He's
might be
very
unknown.
important.
He is.
He's
He is.
very important.
And that's another thing is the way I like Japan a lot. I feel like there's American directors like him who inspire like not only other directors but like music videos.
Oh,
you know what I
sure,
mean? Like
for sure.
so much is taken from
Yeah.
what he made.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
Scorpio
Scorpio
Rising.
Rising, like everything has taken from that.
I told you I watched a 3-minute film by him called Custom Car Commandos, and
Mm,
they're all in K's. Like
yeah.
it's a KK. And I swear, when you watch it, you're like, this is like something David Lynch would have like.
Oh, well, I mean, David Lynch
Yeah,
took a ton from him. Yeah,
100%.
100%. Um,
That's right. I don't even why no I said it because didn't he made another film with like a rabbit in it, Kenneth Anger? You know what I'm
yeah.
talking about?
Mhm.
And David Lynch just like cited that as like one of his
Yeah,
favorite
which you
films.
could easily see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've also heard here's a crazy thing about Kenneth Anger. I heard on another podcast they talked about he tried to I want to say it was Scorpio Rising, but people are like people who are like really religious like don't watch it because it's like summoning a demon into your house.
I
Have you heard about that?
no,
Because he's like
but
really satanic. Yeah,
yeah,
they
well,
say he like
he literally has Lucifer
that's what I
tattooed
mean.
across
People
his
think he
chest.
was like trying to like create like satanic
Yeah,
spells with his films,
interesting. Well,
which is
if
nuts.
that's
It
the
kind of I
case,
have we both have that Blu-ray of his
and
films.
I've watched it. So if that's the
I
case, then
know.
I'd welcome the
Yeah, me
demon
too.
into my.
I haven't watched all of it, but
Maybe
I've
that
watched a good
explains
bit.
some things.
His first film that the it's
Magic
like a
Lantern Cycle or
or
no
fireworks.
fireworks. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
it's like a
Magic
kind of a
Lantern Cycle is
gay
the
film.
yeah.
Yeah, one of the great early prominent gay directors.
I mean, literally one of the like that fireworks is from like the 40s.
And it's like about like Navy
Yeah,
men. Yeah.
fucking
But it's done very artistically. I would
right.
say
It
it's
is.
not like you don't watch it and you're like, oh yeah, this is just like a
Also, shout out Kenneth Anger just died like last year, maybe
really.
or like 2 years
I thought he
ago,
was still
and
alive.
he was
Wow.
making movies in like the 40s,
Yeah,
like
it's nuts.
crazy. He died when he was like 100. Um,
I don't think he would have been a great person to know in real life, too.
no, he probably is like a dick.
Yeah, he
I'd
seems like a
imagine.
psychopath. Yeah.
Um, kind of in that same vein, though, another great American director, John Waters,
That's
in a very
right.
similar
John
vein.
Waters,
Yeah, a
absolutely.
great
Well, because that's what I mean.
queer
You would say
director.
John Waters is uniquely American.
Yes, he is
You know what
very
I mean?
uniquely
He's
American, 100%.
mhm.
John Waters is like the definition of like camp, and to me, camp is like kind of the uniquely American, like
He's just
kind
fun.
of like they always say comedy doesn't translate well between different languages or like different cultures, and I
Hmm.
don't know. Camp to me feels like very American,
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
but like I
Absolutely.
mean, Japanese films are very campy too, but like
Yeah, Love Exposures.
it's in a different way though. It's like
It
in a
is.
different I don't know. It's in a different sense. But
Yeah.
so some Todd Haynes is
Todd
another one
Haynes.
worth mentioning.
Absolutely.
Um, Gus Van Sant,
Gus Van Sant. Wow, yeah.
yeah,
And that's kind of a blind spot for both of us, right? Have you ever seen My Own Private Idaho?
I've not.
I've seen Elephant, and maybe I've talked about this previously. Said, you know what? I should rewatch it. When I watched Elephant, I was very disappointed, and it wasn't like I wasn't into film. I was into film. That's why I checked it out. I just didn't. It wasn't for me, and it won. It won Palme d'Or. It was a
Uh-huh.
big deal. I think it's yeah, that's a uniquely American film. It's about a school shooting. It's kind of
Right,
about the Columbine shooting. I
right.
think it
I
is. I
think it
mean,
is. Yeah.
yeah, it's just it's so strange. You're like watching almost omnisciently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Omnisciently, like you're just seeing these things happen, and he tries to make I don't know the way he makes the statement at the end. You're kind of like
So something I
really
just thought of too. This is like this topic is all over the place, but the Wachowskis I think are actually Canadian.
really. I
So
know that's so
I'm
funny.
glad we didn't bring
When
up.
I said them, and then I was like, I don't know if I'm right on that one.
I feel like we may have mentioned some because we didn't say Cronenberg, which I'm glad we did.
Is Landis Canadian?
That sounds Canadian.
I know, right?
That seems
Now
very
that I'm saying
Canadian.
that.
Well, his son is American at least, I guess. Who's directed a few films.
John Cassavetes. How have we not mentioned
Yeah,
him?
certainly,
Man?
certainly. Is he
Cassavetes
Canadian?
is no. I'm saying he's like one of the great. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I would say, like that's like the '60s is like Cassavetes.
60s or 50s, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you have like the 50s, like also. Well, actually, I have no idea if he's American. Elia Kazan, who made like On the Water.
I don't think he is.
I don't, yeah, that sounds
No,
like
he's
Polish
not.
or something.
He's not because he
might.
made.
He might have. I think he actually might have been a guy that like escaped the Holocaust.
Who made Amadeus?
That's he's not. That guy's Polish.
I know.
What's
his
face?
name? When I think of Elia Kazan, that's who I was thinking of.
I can't think of his name.
I love his movie too. The Fireman's Ball.
We'll think of it.
Mhm.
So I don't know. Like here's another list I'm looking at: Scorsese, Tarantino, John Huston, Coppola, Fincher, Kubrick. So they did put Kubrick on here. Howard Hawks, big Western early director. John Carpenter, Michael Mann, and then the Coen brothers. And this is a guy that actually shouts out S. Craig Zoller, Alex Garland, if you know him.
Mm-hmm.
Frank Darabont, who made like the Green Mile and
Gotcha.
Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well, then another one. Speaking of those, Robert Zemeckis.
Mm-hmm.
He might be Canadian though, actually.
Really?
But he, Forrest Gump, Back to the Future,
Welcome to Marwin.
Welcome to Marvin. Yes, of course.
Yeah, his big
We
one.
were welcomed to Marwin.
I've never
Certainly.
seen it.
Well,
We used to joke about that
yeah,
movie.
you're not missing much.
Right.
Fun movie.
Okay, so here, maybe we should run down top 10 for you.
All
What do you
right.
think of?
Scorsese, I think, has to be up there. So I say Scorsese, Carpenter. I guess if we're doing Kubrick, obviously has to be in there. Kubrick.
No, let's not include
All
Kubrick.
right. All right. No Kubrick.
Yeah,
Because
because you're right.
he's going to take over every single list.
Yeah.
So I'd say Scorsese, Carpenter, De Palma. I'm going to put in there Bogdanovich. I'll throw in Friedkin.
These are your favorites?
Yeah.
Okay.
No order.
Because
I
like
can't do
Spielberg is one of the best, but I don't know if I'd put him on my list.
No, I
of
wouldn't.
favorites.
I would not put him on my top 10 list of favorites. That's maybe Michael Mann. I'd probably put Fincher. Could put Fincher in. I'm thinking one slot for one of those guys, either Fincher, PTA, or like Wes Anderson. But I don't think I've seen enough PTA.
Really? Of those three, I mean,
okay, and then Coen Brothers, obviously. Coen Brothers have to be in there.
Okay.
Coen Brothers, what else? I guess could do Tarantino.
Yeah, I would put Tarantino.
And then
Tarantino is uniquely American in the sense, and this is, I'm a fan, I'm not, but it's like uniquely American because he's like taking everything else and being like, no, like what if it was like cool?
Right,
though?
right. And then I'll do Lynch.
Lynch.
Wait, I got to review that. I need Altman in there too.
Altman, yeah.
Altman's got to be in there. So that's 11, but I think that's a pretty definitive
That's a good
11.
one. Okay, I'll start with
I'd swap Altman for Fincher.
Okay, wow, that's crazy. Well, I mean, it's not, but I think there's other directors you could swap. I'll say Paul Thomas Anderson. Sorry if you can hear that from my Paul Thomas Anderson, Coen Brothers. Those are all new though. Paul Thomas Anderson, Coen Brothers, Scorsese, Tarantino,
Would Altman,
Cassavetes, for sure. Cassavetes, Friedkin, absolutely Friedkin. How many is that? 6.
Yeah.
God, it's tough. Yeah, I might try and put some horror in there. Yeah, like Carpenter or is Toby Hooper American? Yes. Okay, I'd probably put Toby Hooper then.
He could be Canadian, but
I know he could be British. To me, Toby's okay.
He's British.
Okay, I feel like we're missing people.
I feel like we are too, but it's such a heavy topic. Like it's so many people.
Lynch, yeah,
Lynch got to be in there.
There's one like I brought him up before, but I would say like a movie that was made, and this is from my dad, so take it what we will. But that movie Happiness, Todd Solondz was like my dad was like he said if you were like an adult at that time, he's like that was a movie that like needed to be made.
That guy I could actually see being Canadian.
Solondz?
Yeah.
No.
You don't think so?
No, that movie Welcome to the Dollhouse. I think he's American. Yeah.
Another guy I just want to mention that we forgot to mention. We were listing off a bunch of movies. Is Sidney Lumet.
Yeah. Wow. How do we miss him? Sidney Lumet. Yeah.
He would be cresting the top 10 for me as well.
Yeah. I mean,
Dog Day Afternoon, 12 Angry Men.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic.
Coppola's got to be top 10 for me. I think I've said about 10. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Good.
Well, you want to call it there?
I guess so. Yeah, we really don't. Yeah, we're just shot from the hip here. We'll see. This might be a messy one, but
it might be. But we just wanted to get something on camera, and maybe
Ridley Scott's British.
Yes, Ridley Scott is British. Yes, he would be a top 10 for me. Certainly.
Who directed Rambo?
Oh, that I don't know.
Right?
Yeah.
Would you say that? Because I guess that's like maybe that should be an episode topic is where we just talk about like all of those like 80s like almost
80s
like propaganda-ish film like Rambo, like Top Gun.
Well, a great action director from the 80s would be John McTiernan. Is an American who made Die Hard, Predator,
right?
Hunt for Red October.
Those are all very uniquely American.
Yes, sure. And he's kind of an auteur in a sense, like an action auteur.
Alexander Payne.
Yeah. Well, what were you talking about? Rambo, First Blood. Who directed First Blood? Let's see. I think Stallone directed. Oh, Todd Kochev. So no, Ted Kochev is the Australian guy who made Wake and Fright.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so
crazy.
Not an American director, but a great director certainly.
Great film.
You know what else he made? Weekend at Bernie's.
Wow, never seen it.
I haven't either, but that's.
But we move it like Bernie.
He made Wake and Fright and a movie we really like. And he also made Shattered Glass, that movie with Hayden Christensen.
Wow.
Hmm.
All right. Yeah, we should call it there.
All right.
It's a messy one, but I like it.
Well, yeah,
I think we have some
it's
good
us shooting from
discussion.
the hip. Yeah, good
Hmm.
discussion. Well, thank you everybody, and
I
we'll see you
appreciate it.
next time.
Yeah. See you next time.